Ladies and gentlemen, the minister.
Mesdames et messieurs, le ministre.
Good morning. Today we had a series of very good discussions here in Geneva, Swiss, at the United Nations European headquarters, advocating on behalf of our people in the United States of America. These high-level meetings will continue over the course of this week. In time, my office will release a series of press statements that will share with the world in large what we're doing here. For now, I want to speak directly to you about our work and why we are here at the EU headquarters of the United Nations. It is no secret that 25% of the world's incarcerated population resides today in the United States of America, despite the United States making up less than 5% of the world's total population. It is also no secret that those who are most affected by the penal system as it stands in America are those who were most affected by Jim Crow, by redlining, by segregation, and by transatlantic slavery. Further, after 400 years of worsening conditionings in the United States of America, we believe that we cannot continue to wait for justice to come from those who have created the system. It was a great scientist who once said, you cannot get out of the problem with the same thinking that got you in. Despite more arrests, despite harsher laws, despite building bigger prisons, the problem has not gotten better, it's gotten worse. At one point during one of the meetings, one of the officials looked at me and said, "Tell me, sir, how does it look on the ground? Is it really as bad as it looks? The state of your people, is it really that bad?" I said, "It's not that bad. It's worse. It's worse. Because what began as physical bondage has perpetuated itself through the generations, and it has become normalized that fathers would be taken from their children for decades for crimes that others don't even get arrested for. That's become normalized. It's become normalized to turn on the television and see police shooting young black men, so normalized that the movements that speak against it are more vilified than those who are perpetuating the action. So we determined that we could no longer seek within the system for justice. That's why we're here. We're here asking the United Nations for a number of things, which I will get into in a second, but let me say this first. There is a passage of scripture that Matthew records our Christ as having said, "When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was a stranger, you invited me in. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you looked after me. When I was in prison, you visited me." And the righteous said, "Lord, when were you sick or hungry or naked or in prison?" And he said, "If you did it to the least of these, you've done it unto me." We're here at the United Nations headquarters in the EU in Geneva, Swiss, to advocate for the least of these. Those who have been stepped over and stepped on. Those who have normalized the trauma and passed it down through the generations. We do believe this is the work of God. And so we have come here not just with a voice, but with a cause. There are a number of things that we are asking for. First, we are asking for the same international peacekeeping forces that came to the Balkans in their time of need and the East African nations in their time of need to come to the children of the African diaspora in America in our time of need. We're asking for the international peacekeeping forces to be sent to the cities that are most affected by over-policing, violence, and what we are calling a war of aggression by the United States government against Black and Hispanic people, specifically and particularly, but not limited to, Chicago, Miami, New York City, Philadelphia. We have also sent a series of documents to the International Criminal Court at The Hague. We are referring the matter of human rights abuses directly to the highest court in the world. We believe that there are a series of things that are happening in the United States which will only become more extreme unless there is swift and immediate action. Eventually, in time, we will release to the public the documents that we have sent to the International Criminal Court. Those documents allege, among many things, but not limited to, the use of state-sanctioned murder against those who are most vulnerable, also known as the death penalty in the United States of America, which disproportionately affects the same people who were targeted through redlining, through Jim Crow, through transatlantic slavery, and through other means of aggression over the course of 400 years. Chemical castration, which are being used in certain facilities at the behest of a judge or a lawyer or prosecutor who determines that someone is unfit to have children. This is most disturbing because this is happening particularly in the places that Jim Crow was most pervasive in the United States, particularly the South. We are also referring as a matter the collateral effect of putting millions of people behind bars for decades at a time. One of those effects is the perpetuation of poverty. Poverty which takes the breadwinner out of the home, the father out of the home, and then causes the women and children to be dependent on government assistance. It is no secret that many government programs in the United States require that the man or the father not live in the home in order for the woman to receive the funds. We believe that this has a diabolical intention. It is also no secret that those who are most affected by the penal system are fathers who, after healing, after taking responsibility for their crime, oftentimes after being aged out of that crime, are kept in detention for decades. What this has done is perpetuate generations of fatherlessness. In 1960, 75% of those who are of the African diaspora in the United States grew up with their father in the house. Now less than 25% do. This is the collateral effect of a penal system which has lost its way, and a judicial system which aims to smite the shepherd and scatter the sheep. To that end, we are pushing for and advocating for $125 billion forfeiture of assets by the United States government, which we believe is the result of unjust enrichment and divesting from communities of color, and using those monies to invest in capacity building workshops, to invest in entrepreneurship incubators, to invest in wealth building methodologies, which will make it so that the people who have been most affected by prosecutorial overreach and over-policing will not continue to have to go to the same hand that created the problem to get the solution. We absolutely believe that you cannot talk about social justice without also speaking about economic revitalization. They are one and the other. In fact, we would say that social justice is the second floor of the house. Economic revitalization, transformation, and the redistribution of funds that were inadequately and inequitably divested from our communities is the foundation. And that's why we're here. It is no secret that those who are affected by the penal system are often made to forfeit their assets to the government. assets that may have nothing to do with the crime that they are convicted of. The government of the United States and state governments in the United States have been unjustly enriched by this. We seek a remediation. It is also no secret that once those who have been convicted of crimes have been released, they oftentimes never find gainful employment in the American system because of what they call background check laws or public safety policies. The collateral effect of this is that it keeps generations and communities in cycles of poverty, and in fact punishes those who had nothing to do with the crime. We also believe that there's an agenda behind this. There are some who were released 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but because of their digital footprint, they find themselves unable to make a meaningful contribution to the American economy. Some go back to a life of crime. Others are stuck in a cycle of poverty. And we ask the question, who's benefiting from this dysfunction? Lastly, I want to say this. It was Paul the Apostle who said, one plants, another waters, but it is God who gives the increase. Make no mistake about it. We are not the first to do this work, and we will not be the last. We stand on behalf of not just many people, but many generations. And whether it is us who have planted, or it is us who have watered, trust and believe it is God who will give the increase.
Thank you for listening.
Merci d'avoir écouté.